Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's Wonder Why Lunch and Learn series with naturopath and perimenopause expert, Sara Southgate. Hi, Sara. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you, Tracy. Good to see you.
So wonderful to have you with us today. Let me just check that we are going live, that the tech gods are with us and that everything is working well. Okay, it looks like it's happening. Fantastic. We've got sound. Awesome. And you know what? I'm just going to hit record just to be on the safe side.
Yeah, definitely.
So hi, everyone, and welcome to our Wonder Why Lunch and Learn series. I'm your host, Tracy Sara. I am the host of the Peri and Menopause Movement Club Facebook group. So if you're not a member there, go and head over, Google us. That is Peri and ampersand Menopause Movement Club. And I am also the creator of the 12-week Reshape Method program, where I help women, mainly professional and business women, but I can help all women too. I help you to get a strong, agile, pain-free body to match your strong, agile, youthful mind so that you can crush those next phase work or life goals. We are all about looking better, feeling better, and aging audaciously. So I am so happy to have with us today naturopath and perimenopause expert, Sara Southgate, who is going to be speaking to us about why it is so hard to lose weight at perimenopause and beyond and what we can do about it. So, hi, Sara.
Hey, Tracy. So why is it so hard to lose weight in perimenopause and beyond? I think many women feel like all the things that they used to do, they just don't work anymore. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, why is it not working anymore? And the reason it's not working anymore is because your hormones have changed, right? So there's certain things that we need to tweak so that we can get our bodies doing, so you can feel like yourself again.
Absolutely. I mean, they don't call it the change for nothing, right? And I think sometimes we live in a little bit of denial.
Yeah.
That because things worked in the past, we're assuming they're going to work now. And is it because people don't actually appreciate the significance of the hormonal changes that are happening during perimenopause, or they don't even realize that perimenopause has started? Because I hear many women will say, oh, I've gone to my doctor and they've run tests and they say I'm not in menopause. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, it does. I mean, there's so much, such a big lack of awareness about whether we are in perimenopause or not. So some women just don't know, or just watching me give a presentation, they're like, oh yeah, I am in perimenopause.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a big lack of understanding about what that is. And even for women who know that perimenopause is a thing, I think because the symptoms of perimenopause are so many and varied and so nebulous, they come, they go, they get worse, they get better. The doctor, certainly in the UK, there is no, unless you're under 40, there's no blood test that you can have through the NHS to go, yes, you're in perimenopause. And even when there is a blood test, it needs to be taken on day 3 of your cycle. And that just never happens, right? So it's really difficult for women to get that information. And I think often we feel like we're making it up, because it is like that. So there's so much doubt in there as to whether that is what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, I like in my Ladies in the Reshape method, we kind of take the attitude that, like, if you're over 40, you're in some stage of perimenopause, because it is like a 2 to 12 year process. So if you feel that things are changing, if you feel you don't have the strength or the muscle tone, or you're starting to get the aches and pains, or your periods are changing, or as we're going to talk about today, you're struggling to lose weight, you don't need a test to tell you you're in perimenopause. If you know things are changing, then things are changing. And the great news, which I'm sure you're going to share with us today, is that there's a lot that you can do about it yourself. You don't need medication. You don't need doctors. There are things that you can do to start taking charge of that change.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm really passionate about educating people about things that they can do. And, so much of it starts in your kitchen. This is something that we can control, right? Through the foods that we're eating and the foods that we're buying can have a massive impact on the way that we feel, and especially on our weight and our energy, and all of those things. And there's in perimenopause, a quarter of women will have no symptoms at all. Their periods just stop and they're like, oh, was that it? A quarter of women have a lot of symptoms that can be difficult to deal with. And then the remaining 50% are somewhere in between. So what that means is that most women can really impact their health and the way that they feel through what they eat and how they live. So it's giving them those tools so they can use them and look after themselves.
Amazing, amazing. Well, I am going to take myself off screen so that you can share the screen and do whatever it is that you need to do, kind of technologically. I'll be sitting here in the background. So if anybody has questions on LinkedIn or Facebook for Sara, just pop them in. I'm going to be following the questions, and I can't wait for you to school us. So let me hand it over to you. There we go.
Lovely. Okay, so let me share. So can you see that, Tracy?
Yes.
The blood sugar roller coaster. Okay, so as a naturopath who works exclusively with perimenopausal women, I find that this is a really great way to explain actually what's happening, and with specific reference to weight loss, why you can't lose weight where you used to before. And it's because, as we've said, is your hormones are changing, right? So this blood sugar roller coaster is an illustration of what happens when you eat food. Your body turns the food into fuel, and the fuel that we run off is blood sugar, right? So that gives us energy, it feeds our brain, it feeds our muscles, it feeds our organs. Now, what tends to happen is that for most people, the blood sugar curve will follow this roller coastery line of up and down and up and down. Okay, so your blood sugar is a translation of what you eat into fuel. So you eat something, right, and your blood sugar will go very high very quickly. Now that's, your body doesn't like to be in that state. It becomes a bit of an emergency situation. So your body needs to take action and get rid of all this blood sugar, which causes your blood sugar to crash, right? Now, if you were a toddler or you had a toddler in front of you and their blood sugar crashed, they might well be having a tantrum, right? So this is when we are hangry and we are irritable and we are grumpy, all right? Now, that is another emergency situation for the human body. So your body will give the instruction to dump a load of sugar back into the blood, and then it gets too high, and then your blood sugar crashes. So we've got this roller coaster. And the thing that we need to be really aware of is that the highs and the lows are very stressful for your body. And when your body is in stress mode, it is in fat storage mode, okay? And it's in inflammation mode. And that is not where we want our body to be. And not least that this fluctuation from very high to very low to very high to very low, that is the pathway to diabetes. So this has got serious impacts on our health, on our fat storage and on our inflammation, all right? And it's stressful for your body. And when your blood sugar crashes, what your body does is it fills you full of adrenaline, because adrenaline is like a coping hormone in an emergency, so that you stay alive, because your body goes into survival mode. And what's important to know about survival mode is that nothing can heal, right? So if you've got inflammation, that's not going to heal because your body's in survival mode. In that mode, your body will be burning muscle, right? So you'll be utilizing your muscle to stay alive, because your body turns your muscle into sugar so that you can survive the emergency it thinks it's in, right? So, this, not only do you burn muscle when your blood sugar is low, but your mood crashes, your energy crashes, you are tired, grumpy, irritable, you can't concentrate, and you crave sugar, right? So, and this is the thing with the, where things used to work really well, and they don't now. People so often say, oh, it's me, it's my fault, I've got no willpower. I just can't resist the Jaffa cakes or the sugar. But actually, this is nothing to do with willpower. This is to do with your body's physiology. This is what is happening in your biology and your body chemistry in response to the foods that you're eating, okay? So what do we want with our blood sugar, and why is it? So what we want is we want our blood sugar to be balanced. So we want to be in the pink, right? So when your blood sugar is balanced, you have got enough energy, okay? You don't have any of those cravings because your blood sugar is not dropping down here. Your muscle is protected, so you're not burning through your muscle and losing muscle mass, right? And your stored fat is burnt as fuel, okay? So because you get this, the fat storage happens when your blood sugar is really high and you get into inflammation, okay? We don't want to go up there. We want to stay down here. So your body will release your stored fat as fuel. And the reason that this is really important and the change that happens is because of insulin, right? So insulin is not just relevant to you, to diabetics. Insulin is enormously relevant to you in perimenopause because estrogen controls insulin, and insulin is the hormone of fat storage and inflammation, okay? So before perimenopause, if insulin was a dog, estrogen had that dog on a lead. So estrogen controls insulin. Your estrogen drops and insulin gets out of control. It's a dog, it's running around, it's chasing squirrels, it's peeing on all the trees. It's going wild. And when insulin goes wild in your body, you are storing fat, storing fat, storing fat, causing inflammation, causing inflammation, causing inflammation. So this is where so much, not just of weight gain, but that those aches and pains come because of the inflammation that starts to happen at a cellular level. Perimenopause is a long-term low-grade inflammatory state. Okay, that is the way it is. Woohoo,
say that
right?
Again.
Yeah, thank
say
you.
that again. I think
say
everyone
that again.
hear that.
Yeah, perimenopause is a long-term low-grade inflammatory state. So this is where all the aches and pains come from. And insulin is a massive contributor to that because it's causing, when there's too much sugar in the blood that's not then controlled by insulin, it causes inflammation inside your artery. So inflammation at the cellular level, and it spreads in your body. There's too much inflammation. So insulin is, we learn in naturopathic college, insulin is the hormone of fat storage and the hormone of inflammation. And those are two things we don't need. We just don't need more of that in our life. So it's all about balancing and controlling your insulin. This is why you can't lose weight, because your insulin's going wild, right? So where your body used to be able to control that, and it used to be able to easily control your blood sugar, because of the drop in estrogen, it cannot do that anymore. So that's why those old weight loss strategies that used to work just don't work anymore. Or that is where if you've been someone who struggles with your weight, that is why your weight has suddenly skyrocketed instead of, just not being very happy with it. It's just really gone up. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you. That is a really, succinct explanation of what is going on. I love that. Yeah, and staying in the pink.
Staying in the pink.
In the pink.
Stay in the pink. We want stored fat being burnt as fuel. Your energy rises. There's no cravings. Your muscle is protected, and your body is way less stressed. Remember, because up here in high blood sugar, that's really stressful, and down here in no blood sugar, that's also really stressful.
Yeah, and I love what you said about how high blood sugar damages arteries. Yeah. And I think a lot of women are unaware that the number one killer of women over 50 is not breast cancer, it's heart disease. That's a shocker to hear, right? And is this linked to this insulin resistance that is going on?
Absolutely. So what we have is when your body, you're producing more and more insulin, and it's almost like your cells become deaf to the insulin. They can't hear it. And so your brain goes, but there's loads of sugar in the arteries. It's causing inflammation. We can't have this. They can't be, they're not listening to the insulin. We need more insulin, right? Produce more insulin. And so produce more insulin, the cells still don't hear it. So we have this state where you're constantly full of insulin, which means that everything that you eat will be stored as fat because your bloodstream is flooded with insulin. And because there's so much insulin, the cells like, I just can't respond to all of this insulin. So, you know, this is where insulin resistance comes from. And that, you know, you can, if your waist measurement is over a certain number, you know, that's a really good indicator that you are insulin resistant, right? So yeah, so insulin resistance is also a thing that, as because of the less estrogen controlling insulin, that is much more likely to happen in perimenopause. Yeah, and it's massively inflammatory. So, you know, and inflammation underpins all chronic disease, not just heart disease, but diabetes. Well, obviously, this shows you why. You know, obesity is also an inflammatory condition. So inflammation has got so much to answer for. So what we need to do is compensate for this natural, long-term, low-grade inflammatory state that is perimenopause. And we can do that through what we're eating.
I love that. I love that. Yeah. So what does that mean in the kitchen?
What does it mean? Well, let me stop sharing. So what does it mean? Well, it means, you know, to look at the way, not just what we eat, but how we eat as well, because getting your fuel sources right, so getting your food right, is really important in being in the pink, right? So it's important in stabilizing your blood sugar. So it's about you know, eating the right amount of the right types of carbohydrates, okay? The right amount of the right types of protein, the right amount of the right type of fat, and as much fiber as you can get into your body. Because that blood sugar spike that I showed you, the things that stop your blood sugar going too high is protein, fat, and fiber. Those are the three things that really catch that blood sugar curve, and they just go, we're going to keep you in the pink. Okay, so it's a combination effect of what you're eating. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So what are some tips that you could give people to in terms of how they should imagine their plate or dish up their plate at each meal? What are your guidelines?
So what we want to have is probably a lot more vegetables than you're used to. Okay, so
and can you tell us what vegetables are?
Yeah,
because I've had some conversations with people about vegetables, because we do there's a small nutrition element in the reshape method, and people would say to me, yes, I'm eating vegetables, I'm having carrots and peas for dinner. Does carrots and peas cut it?
Well, interestingly, so carrot actually count, and other root vegetables, they count as a slow carbohydrate, right? So, you know, I talk about the carbohydrate continuum. Okay, so we've got refined white sugar at one end, and then we, you know, we come through all the fruits. So tropical fruits are very sweet. They have quite a lot of carbohydrate in. Then we have kind of, you know, fruits like apples and berries. They've got carbs in. Then we've got white pasta, and white rice, then whole grain, and then we get into the root vegetables. So your root vegetables are so, and as we get along, you know, root vegetables, and then into the green vegetables. Okay, so all of those things contain carbohydrate. We want to go slow carb. So you definitely need to have carbs on your plate. One of the most common mistakes that people make is to go no carb. Right? We don't want to go no carb. So that will really slow your metabolism down. You know,
and by no carb, do you mean like no vegetables, or do you mean grains?
I mean grains. So people will say to me, Sara, I'm just eating chicken and spinach and I'm not losing weight. And you know, your body is designed to survive. And if you're not eating enough, it will go, okay, let's slow the metabolism so we can stretch the fuel out so we can survive on this, right? And then people cut again and your metabolism slows. And that really, we want to be eating regularly to fire up your metabolism so it's working and it's burning what you're eating. That's really your ticket. So so coming back to your thing about vegetables, yes, so you want like half a plate of what I call greens, and greens is shorthand for anything that grows above ground that is dark green and leafy, plus a few other things like onions, mushrooms, tomatoes, peppers, right? So it's not the root veg. So they would go, I really encourage people when we're talking about carbs to think about things that are nutrient dense, right? So white rice has had the husk removed. That's where all the nutrients are. If you've got white rice, you've got a fast carb, that is going to shoot you into high blood sugar, shoot you into fat storage inflammation right there. Okay. Same with white pasta. There is nothing new, you know, think about the nutrients being in the color of the food. They're just white or beige. There is nothing there for you. It's all been removed. You compare that to beetroot, right? Beetroot has got it's dark purple in color, it's full of fiber, it's full of jam-packed with antioxidants, there's loads. It is a nutritionally dense, slow carbohydrate, and that is enormously valuable to you, not just to balance your blood sugar, but also to nourish your body with everything that your body needs. Yeah. Bottom line is that if you are not eating a nutritionally dense diet, your body might be lacking in manganese or boron or copper, and it can't say, Sarah, can I have some more copper, please? It can't, but it can prompt you to eat, right? That's the only way your body can ask is say, come on, I'm lacking minerals, give me food. But you might go, oh, well, I'll have a piece of toast then, I'm hungry. And then your blood sugar just goes up again. Yeah. So we want really much more of our dark green leafies, much more of the brightly colored veg. I mean, one of our most protective mechanisms is, and this is kind of slightly away from blood sugar, is to eat like 30 different types of veg. And people go, oh my God. But if you include in that garlic, ginger, onions, cinnamon, all your spices, plus your veg that, you know, you're eating on your plate, actually, it's not too hard to achieve that. So yeah, so that, does that answer your question?
Yes, yeah. I think often, as you say, people just aren't having enough variety of veg at each meal, right? And not enough, like half your plate is half your plate.
And serve it first, right? And serve your veg first and eat your veg first, because when you eat your veg first, what happens is you start to digest it first. So you chew it and you release all the fiber from the vegetables, and that like forms like a kind of like a little bubble, like a mat. And in that mat of fibers, because they are fibers, the fiber is you know, a kind of a, you know, like a sponge of fiber, it will catch the glucose molecules that are going to come out of your slow carbs, and catch them, and then it just keeps that, stops that curve, goes like that. So eat your fibrous vegetables first. So you have your greens, and then we have a quarter plate of protein and a quarter plate of slow carbs. So those are my guidelines, and that is, you know, within 7 days you can get a handle on your blood sugar and your insulin, and you stop your cravings. You stop your cravings in 7 to 10 days. You know, and that's an enormously powerful place to be, because you're constantly blaming yourself. I'm hungry, I've got a sugar craving, I shouldn't, oh my God. But really, you're trying to fight your physiology and your biology, and you can't do that. When your blood sugar is balanced, when you're in the pink, then you're in a totally different place. You know, 75% of those cravings are down to blood sugar. Yeah. And you know, 25% habit, boredom, emotion. Yes, that exists, but 75% of your cravings is just down to blood sugar.
And how do you go about kind of convincing people to do this or changing their mind? We've almost got like this habit of how we plan meals, how we prepare meals, how we dish up food on our plate. You know, I know before I started eating this way, I was like, my meal was all about my carb. Like when I was planning meals, it was like, I wasn't planning around the protein and the veggies, I was planning around the carb, because that is what had kind of fueled me for 45 years of my life. And it really is habit. So what kind of tips would you give people who are maybe going away from perhaps like a spaghetti bolognese for dinner, where it's just mostly spaghetti and a bit of bolognese, to going to a more protein and vegetable centric way of eating?
So there's lots of ways you can do that. So a big part of it is that education piece, to join up the dots for people, so they're like, okay. And then I'll just say, just do this for 7 days. Trust me. Can you do this for 7 days? Because 7 days for most people is long enough for them to go, oh my goodness. Actually, you know, when I say to people, your cravings will be gone in 7 to 10 days, most people don't believe me.
Yes.
But they just don't believe me, and I get it. But then I just go, just trust me. I've done this for hundreds of people. It does work. And they come back and they go, oh my God, Sara, that worked. I can't believe it. And I go, yeah, I know. So yeah, so it is that education, and then it's making it easy for people to do, because, you know, it has to be easy for people to do. So it's teaching them how to make eating healthily a sustainable thing to do. So something that doesn't take over your life. But, you know, if you're going to eat this way, you're not going to survive on McDonald's. That's just doesn't fit the guidelines. So it's teaching people how to plan their meals for their family in a way that they can do this 50% veg, quarter slow carbs, quarter protein. You know, so for me, my planning doesn't go around the carb, it goes around my veg box. So I have an organic veg box, and I know what's coming each week. I'm like, right, okay, so that's that, and then we've got the other stuff. So it's just helping people to do that. Because however you plan it, planning is key to success.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Thank you, Sara. That was so insightful. And really, it's simple, but it's not simple, right? It's simple, but it's not easy, because it does require a bit of planning, a bit of forethought. But as you say, once you're feeling awesome in your body, there's no going back.
Yeah. Sorry, that's my daughter's home. So yeah, once you feel awesome, it just changes everything. It changes everything, because suddenly you're in a place where actually you're not craving, and you feel like, oh, okay, I can do this. This is completely different, because you're no longer at the mercy of all of that stuff, and your energy rises, stress levels go down, because remember, when your blood sugar crashes, your body fills full of adrenaline. So you just start to feel better. And then, you know, so, you know, within 7 days, your sugar cravings go. 14 days, you're like, this actually is sustainable. 21 days, you're like, oh, am I feeling less achy? You know, so it's quite a quick payoff.
Right.
But really the ticket is in it becoming automatic behavior. This way of eating and this way of living needs to become automatic, because you need to eat this way for the rest of your life. This is not, I don't teach dieting. This is about a new way of eating for the rest of your life. You know, and everybody falls off the wagon, right? That's totally normal. But it's a brilliant learning curve to fall off the wagon, because you're like, oh God, I feel crap again. Oh my gosh, my headaches are back. My aches are back. Oh, I'm gaining weight again. I'm bloated. It's like, okay. You know, so it's teaching people how they feel when they're on it and how they feel when they're not. And then they can make a choice.
Right.
That's what it's about, really.
Absolutely. I love that, because at the end of the day, it's how you feel in your body. You know, it's the same with the movement methodology that I teach in the reshape method. Like, after a while, well, not even after a while, just after trying a different way of moving, people are like, well, you know, I'm doing the workouts, I'm stacking movement into the day because I just feel so good. My body just wants to do it. It's not even a case of willpower. And I suppose it's the same with this way of eating. Your body just wants to do it because it now has something to compare to. It's like, if I eat this way, I'm going to feel great. And so it probably becomes easier and easier over time to incorporate that way of eating into your life. Have you found that with your clients?
Yeah, absolutely. So for everyone, it's a big learning curve. And it's and you know, so many people actually come, they go, but I eat healthily already. And so for those of you who eat healthy already, that's not eating to balance your insulin or to balance your blood sugar. It's just not what we kind of classify healthy eating as.
What would you say? I mean, people who come to you and say, oh, but I'm eating healthy. What is the difference really between that person who believes they're eating healthy and the style of eating that is focused on controlling insulin?
So it kind of depends what your guidelines are. So most certainly the UK government guidelines, which are what gets spouted to us, is eat low fat and eat low calorie. So for many women, eating healthy really means being on a diet. Doesn't not everybody, but a lot of people. So they will be eating low fat, and we need those good fats because they're anti-inflammatory. So they're part of the strategy to reduce that long-term low-grade inflammation. That's perimenopause, right? So it's re-educating them on actually what they think healthy eating is. And some people might say, I'm eating healthy because I'm cooking from scratch. But are you eating anti-inflammatory foods? Are you getting your proportions right so that your blood sugar is balanced? Those are the things. So it's that education piece really that they need to then go, oh, okay, actually, yeah. And they realize that also what they're doing isn't working, because that's why they're here, Yeah.
Well, fantastic. Thank you so much. It's such important. Last question that I have on some women have been asking. What about the alcohol?
Okay, important question, right? Usually for so alcohol, if you're having a spirit, right, so gin or vodka on its own, that's not going to impact your blood sugar really. It's the mixer that impacts your blood sugar, right? So it's because it's with Coca-Cola or orange juice or whatever it is you're having them together with. So there's that, but there is also the thing that alcohol just inhibits I'm not going to say willpower, but it impacts your resistance to all things, doesn't it? So often alcohol, that's when the peanuts come out and the crisps and all of that. So but it's not about not having it. So wine would be a better choice, a dry wine. You could have a gin and tonic. We have some Fever Tree tonic water, which has got fructose in it, not sugar. I'm not a fan of sweetener. We know that people who have sweeteners still put on weight in the same way as people who have full sugar. Sweeteners are chemicals made in factories, so it's not perfect. But if you're going to have alcohol, have it with a meal, right? So you are digesting that whole meal. You need to have alcohol with protein, with fat, with fiber, because that will slow the sugar spike that comes from the sugary alcohol, right? So never have alcohol on its own, always have it with a meal, basically. And some people can lose weight and drink alcohol, other people just can't. It really depends on your metabolism. So it's about what works for you, and that's part of the journey, isn't it? It's finding out what works for you and what doesn't. Yeah.
And then that brings us to, how can people work with you? Tell us, how can people be in touch with you, and do you offer programs, and do you work internationally?
Yeah, so I work exclusively online, so I do work internationally. I have a program called the Nourish Club. It's for perimenopausal business professionals and business owners who want to have a natural perimenopause. So it is teaching them this way of eating, but also there's a lot of, it's not just diet, it's about lifestyle. Naturopathy is about lifestyle. So we do, meditation, breathing, we talk about cold showers. There's lots. It's about giving people tools they can choose from that they like, which actually contribute to putting your body in a place where it can heal and it can be balanced. Yeah.
Amazing. And we will put links below where people can get in touch.
Yeah, that would be great. I would love to hear from you guys.
Awesome. So if anybody's got any final questions, just pop them in the chat, or if you're watching on the replay, just go #replay or tag Sara Southgate, and hopefully you can come in and answer some questions that come through a bit later, because I know a lot of people are at work or busy with kids right now. So thank you so much for coming to speak to us today. Just a takeaway, one thing that you would like people to take away from what they have learned today, that would be what?
Your biggest thing would be to balance your blood sugar, and the most important thing to do for that is to eat protein for breakfast. So get rid of your granola. Porridge is no longer suitable for you if you are a woman in
Oatmeal.
perimenopause.
A lot of people
No,
think they're being healthy.
too
They
much,
take their oatmeal.
yeah, too
Yeah.
much sugar, and your body cannot control it. Just can't control it in the way that it used to. So we need to start the day with protein. You start your day in the pink, right? So that's your big takeaway.
So can you give us an example of what people can have for breakfast if you say you want to have a protein?
Eggs is brilliant. Eggs are a brilliant one.
How many eggs?
2 eggs, piece of rye toast, so that's a much lower sugar load bread. It's much less processed. You could have half an avocado with that. You could add some tomatoes. If you're in a hurry and you need a grab and go breakfast, you could make a frittata, which is kind of green veg with eggs, whisked eggs over it, baked in the oven. So you can take a slice of that with you. So there's lots of solutions for practical protein breakfast.
Right. Yeah. And I think also we've been raised in this like Kellogg's culture where the thought of having, an animal protein for breakfast is like privilege. But like how do you feel about people having maybe dinner leftovers for breakfast?
100%. If that works for you.
You mean you can do that?
You can do that, and then it's there. You can literally grab and go, right? If you've got your, I call that your deli. Your fridge is like a deli. So when you open your fridge, like, okay, I can construct a meal from this really quickly. There is, so there's not always a need to have to cook, right? Because we don't have time to do that all the time. We need to have our grab and go stuff that needs to be on track so that you can be your best and feel yourself again.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for coming to chat with us today. I hope you will come back again and let us know, people. Let us know below if you can try and have breakfast for dinner or add more protein to your breakfast. I love that tip. I think that's a very sort of easy and workable tip. It does kind of push us out of our eating comfort zone though, but as you say, you want to start the day in the pink. And
I think
how that feels.
It's seeing how it feels. It's making it an experiment. So don't think, oh my God, I have to have protein every day for the rest of my life, but go, oh, I'm going to do this for a week and I'm going to see how it impacts my hunger, my mood, my energy for the rest of the day. There's, so it doesn't have to be a massive commitment. It's just finding what works for you. And I've got, if people want to find out a bit more about how I work, I've got a download that they can download, which is, 7 reasons why you feel crap in perimenopause.
Oh, I love that.
So I'm happy to drop that link for you as well.
Please, that would be wonderful. Well, thank you so much for coming to chat to us. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you, Tracy.
I'm going to go and have a high protein, lots of veg lunch.
Okay.